Tenet is my pick for the worst movie of 2020. It's the writer's job to make even difficult ideas easy for the viewer to follow and be engaged in. As a viewer, you should remember one thing. It is not your fault. Christopher Nolan doesn't know how to write dialogue. One-dimensional characters. If any of the characters stopped for 1 second to think about what they were doing, they'd realize, what's the point of all this? Let's say you know exactly where COVID-19 started, and you had a time machine. Would you, A, go back in time to where it started, stop it before it got a chance to get going, or B, let it begin to spiral out of control, kill a bunch of people, and only then try to intercept it? Well, in the Tenet universe, everyone's like, let's go with B. And it's perpetual nonsense like that that makes Tenet the worst movie of 2020. Here's a quick recap of the premise. An evil Russian guy wants to destroy the world. In order to do so, he'll have to reassemble a doomsday device that was constructed in the future. Now, the good guys, of course, want to stop him. Both good guys and bad guy can travel back and forth through time using a method called inversion. Sounds pretty cool so far, but three things turn Christopher Nolan's Tenet into one of the best all-time examples of what I call chaotic filmmaking. Now, the science aspect of Tenet gets a lot of attention, but for me, I actually don't have too many questions in that area. I mean, it's a science fiction movie, we all know about suspension of disbelief, and Christopher Nolan, we're happy to go along with you on this journey where people have the ability to travel back and forth through time. That's not a problem. What is a problem is when you try to lead us into this quicksand of ambiguity. Let's start at the opening, the opera scene. You got 4 different groups of people with guns. You got the cops, you got the terrorists, you got the terrorists posing as cops, and lastly you have the CIA who's posing as some of the terrorists who are posing as cops. When was the last time a shootout ever needed to be this complicated to be suspenseful? Or when have you ever seen a situation like this in reality where there's 4 parties with guns at the same shootout? So already, instead of enjoying the movie, I'm asking questions. I'm wondering about things that don't seem right.
I've never seen a encapsulation like this.
We don't know how old it is, but it's the real deal.
Another thing that doesn't seem right. Why would there be plutonium or an algorithm component or any other weapon of mass destruction at the opera? Is that where they normally keep it, beside the corsets? Inversion. It's a key concept that's core, central to the plot. So naturally, we're going to be wondering how it works a little bit. I mean, we know what it does, but how is it triggered? Does it require a DeLorean going at 88 miles an hour? Does it require 1.21 gigawatts? Give us some kind of context that will put away the ambiguity, allow us to tuck our BS meters into our pockets, sit back, and enjoy your story. I've heard a lot of people say they were confused while watching Tenet, but as a viewer, you should remember one thing. It is not your fault. It's the writer's fault. If, when watching a story, I'm confused, I'm disoriented, I don't get what's going on, that's not my problem. It's the writer's job to make even difficult ideas easy for the viewer to follow and be engaged in. Second thing, Christopher Nolan doesn't know how to write dialogue. Every conversation in Tenet is this monotonous, even pitter-patter between 2 characters who are always calm, collected, professional, regardless of whether they've just been held at gunpoint or witnessed objects moving backward in time. Problem is, I don't want to see professionals. I want to see fear. I want to see tension. I want to see raw emotion. I want the realism of characters going through what they're going through. Constantly blank, stoic characters in a movie isn't professionalism, it's bad writing, and the definition of one-dimensional characters. It seems as an artist, Nolan has some sense of this, that most of his dialogue is just flat exposition. So he tries to compensate for it by amping up the tense background music in a way that's completely unnatural, and sometimes actually drowns out the dialogue.
Damage to one structure won't compromise the other.
One of the major sequences in Tenet revolves around a counterfeit painting that a woman gave to her mobster husband. Now, in order to enlist her support, the good guys need to destroy that painting so that the mobster husband no longer has control over his wife. But if any of the characters stopped for 1 second to think about what they were doing, they'd realize what's the point of all this. Even if the painting were destroyed, the mobster boss has any number of ways to control and harm his wife, including mutilation or murder, two things that he's exceedingly comfortable with. And going back to our point at the start of this video, if you can travel back in time, why not just kill the bad guy early, when he's unsuspecting and hasn't even hatched his scheme yet? Or better yet, find the scientist who invented this doomsday device and just kick his butt. Why do the good guys wait until literally the last minute? Okay, I know why. It's to stage a climax at the end of the movie. That's not a particularly good reason from a storytelling perspective. Because of these things, and the huge hype and $200 million budget, along with the corresponding level of disappointment associated with that, Tenet is my pick for the worst movie of 2020. Did you agree with my review or disagree? Please just let me know. And for my next review, I think I'll try another big budget movie with huge expectations, so Wonder Woman 1984 might be a good choice for me. Thanks and take care.